Hello, I'm Joan Mollinson. Today I have the great privilege to introduce one of the living legends in the world of television, Mr. Joe Franklin, who for the past 43 years has been interviewing the greats and the near greats of show business. For that reason, he's listed in the Guinness Book of Records as the longest running talk show host in history. And along with him today we have his producer and good friend, Mr. Richie Ornstein. But before we meet these gentlemen, I'd like you to look at some of the film clips of his past shows.
Steve Lawrence and Edie Gourmet. Did you say hello to Larry King before?
Yes, we saw Larry King. I was very happy.
Larry.
Florida.
Let's hear it for Larry King. We have no studio audience, but how do you feel about Larry King?
How do you feel?
Ladies and gentlemen, I've asked my very dear friend Arthur Tracy, the street singer, to sit with me because I get lonely. Arthur, I'm going to put the spotlight on you.
When I look for your love light, I awake with a sigh. And I find you are gone.
You mentioned Billy Crystal, and a couple of years ago, Billy got a lot of mileage out of doing a Joe Franklin impression on Saturday Night Live.
If I may be so immodest, he made me a superstar. You know, I gave the first exposure to Bette Midler. Somebody's asking me backstage. Bette Midler was my secretary, and she used to answer my phones, Pat. And the song, the Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy of Company B that made her into a superstar, was from my sheet music collection. She used to browse through the library of my nostalgic songs. And
See, you never know where. Now, let me show this picture, because you mentioned Mrs. Streisand. I see Rudy Valley there.
Barbara Streisand was my singer 40 times on TV, and she's...
Is that Jack LaLanne?
Jack LaLanne, and Rudy Valley told Barbara that day she'd never make it in show business.
Good call, huh?
He said she didn't have the faith. Right opposite me, one of the great ladies of the screen. You talk about a movie star of the first magnitude, and one of the most gracious first time on my... I would imagine not only the first time on my show, but one of your first interviews ever, Joan Fontaine, at least regarding the book, right?
You should know how gracious I felt this morning when I found I didn't have any makeup.
No makeup.
Here I am, naked. That's it.
Yeah, the booed when I couldn't remember the words, you know.
Did you ever turn down, did you ever reject, let's say, ever turn down a song or a movie or any project that, not that you regretted it later on, but something that you could have had, but it turned out...
I can think of a song as this person. I did a picture called She Loves Me Not.
Right.
And we had a song in there called Love and Boom, and I didn't like it.
Didn't like it.
I sang it in the picture, but I just kind of did a record, threw it away, and it's one of Jack Benny's theme song. Now nobody connects me with the song at all, and it's become his, or was his, you know.
I got to give you his album later on today. He's your #1 fan after me. Steve Mason, who puts out these albums of Crosby.
Let's see what he sings. Good morning. I hear the mission bells above.
Continue.
I could tell the world how to smile. I could be lonely if I had you. Call me darling. Call me darling. Call me darling. You came to me from heaven over. When April showers will bring me peace.
What you did for me as a new entertainer starting out at age 26 or whatever, I'm 51 now, I mean, I have to come back here and say thank you.
Franklin here on a golden mountaintop in golden Tinseltown, beautiful Hollywood. We're preparing my 40th anniversary in broadcasting special to be seen July 21st, 8 o'clock at night until about 10 o'clock at night. And we came out here to interview a few of the people who've got personal meaning to me.
40 more for you, Joe Franklin. Remember something. Who loves you, baby? We do.
Joe, it's the ghost of Jessel saying happy anniversary. How come you haven't had me on the show lately?
Your shows are really wonderful. Well, some of them are.
Joe, I've been watching you since I was a little child, and I've enjoyed it. Happy anniversary, and thanks for the memories.
Joe, may I just say, I wish for you all the happiness on a personal basis that you brought the people because of your involvement in this, pardon me, this nutty business that we call show business.
Wishing Joe Franklin a happy 40th anniversary in the business. TV.
Hi, this is Dick Clark, and it's kind of fun sitting around reminiscing with Joe Franklin, but you know what? You ain't seen nothing yet.
You can't help but sit here 40 years. He's been sitting and spritzing, sitting and talking, sitting and nadling, and schmelling with the greats, the near greats, the ne'er-do-wells, the good people. I've had the young, the old, the Weird Al Yankovic, the kids in the tight pants with their hair, the guitars, the things. I've seen it all. I've had it. I've smelled it. I've touched it. And you know what? It's fun. It's fun.
You've given it a thumbnail description.
A thumbnail, a thumb nose, a thing, a touch, a hangnail. I like this business. I love it. It's my life. Can you say show business is your life, Joe?
And may you live as long as you want, and may you never want as long as you live.
That's it for me. I've been blessed. It's like living in a Torah. It's like I'm here in a Torah with Joe. I'm in the Hall of Fame right now. I'm Rube Marquard's pictures right next to me. He was a picture. Remember Rube Marquard?
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
He was in vaudeville, I think. He was married to a vaudeville person. I forget which
Really?
one. Yeah.
And
Blossom Seeley, I think, who later on married Benny Fields.
I remember. I couldn't go. I sent a gift, but I couldn't go.
Well, that was very impressive. And now, let's meet the real Joe Franklin and his very good friend and producer, Mr. Richie Ornstein. Joe, you know, you love show business. It's in your blood. You just love it.
I love you.
Yes.
You said the word legendary before, Joe.
Oh,
and
yes.
When I talk about my legendary guests through the years,
Yes.
We list Cary Grant, Charlie Chaplin, Elvis Presley. I mean, but I always say Joan Mollison because
Oh, boy. Well, I'm complimented.
You were a highlight personality. I hope you'll come back with me one day.
Oh, I
soon.
will. I promise. But now I would like to know. I always like to know, how did you get started in the business? Let's go back to the beginning.
Well, I was born at a very early age. And when I was born, something horrible happened. I lived. No, I'm only kidding. I was a Yorkville East Side kid in Manhattan, and I sort of, my classmate was Tony Curtis. His name then was Bernie Schwartz.
Yes.
We'd go to movies every afternoon, and we'd, hang around, show people. We'd wait outside Low State for autographs of all the entertainers of Ronald Reagan and Jane Wyman and Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland. And one day, I got a job as a record chooser for a man named Martin Block on a program called the Make Believe Ballroom. Remember years ago?
Yes, I remember.
On WNEW?
Yes.
And he liked me, and he got me my own show. I was 17 years old, got me my own radio show. But he would say to me, there I was 17 years old, Richie, he would say to me every day, go in the hallway, bring in Frank Sinatra, bring in Vaughn Monroe, bring in Louis Prima. You know, I was a lucky kid. Got me my own radio show. And then when TV began, about 1950, it was only on then from 5 o'clock at night until sermonette. There was no daytime TV yet. They were considering lighting up in the daytime. And they called me and said, Joe, we like your speaking voice. If we give you an hour a day, would you accept it? I said, I'll try it for a week or two, yeah. And they said, well, if we give you the show, what kind of show would you do? I said, how about if I do a show of people talking, nose to nose, eyeball to eyeball? They said, Joe, you're out of your mind. The word is television. You got to give them vision. You got to give them self-survivals, pratfalls, baggy pants, burlesque kids. You can't, you can't give them talk.
Yeah.
I said, well, if I can't give them a talk format, how about, because, rock and roll was getting big then, right, Richie?
Sure.
So I said, how about if I do a show of kids dancing to phonograph records. They said, Joe, you're out of your mind. Who's going to watch kids dancing to records? Who comes along? Dick Clark becomes a billionaire. But I defied them, and I think I did what was the world's first pure, organic, from the bones talk show.
Yes, and after 43 years, that's quite a record. Mr. Ornstein, you're his producer. Have you been his producer most of those times?
I was with Joe a good portion of it, Joe.
Yeah.
Half.
Yes. Half, and I had a great time. Every show was exciting. Being with Joe Franklin every day is a trip. It's just fantastic. And we met nice people, and Joe knows how to handle people, and that's why it's such a fantastic show.
Yes. And did you help pick out quite a few of the guests yourself?
Well, to tell you, Joe, most of them come to us. I mean, they call the Joe's phone, and our phones don't stop all day. They ring on and on and on, hundreds of times an hour. So very rarely do we have to get a guest. If there's someone special, you know, I may speak to them. But majority of times, I'll say 99%, they all call us.
If there's somebody that I wanted through the years, then I would tell Richie. As Richie says, most of them came to me. But if there's somebody that I wanted, if I wanted Garth Brooks when he was young, I liked his spark. I wanted New Kids on the Block. I wanted Weird Al Yankovic once.
That's right, sure.
Who were some of the ones I wanted? I wanted
Bruce Springsteen.
I wanted Eddie Murphy. I gave him those assignments, and he tracked them down.
Oh, I see. That's what you did.
Yeah,
Track
that's
them down. Yes. Now, let's talk about some of your guests. Who was your very first guest?
A lady named Fannie Hurst.
Yes.
Wrote a book called Imitation of Life, wrote Backstreet,
Yes.
Humoresque, Symphony of 6 Million. She was probably, because nobody knew me then. I couldn't get guests. I called up everyone. Those were the days when I used to beg for guests, but she took a liking to me, and I went to her apartment after the show. Nothing sexy. I saw one of her books on the shelf there called Great Laughter. I pulled it out of the shelf, and chapter 1 was called A Long Bunch of Memory Lanes. And I just fell in love with that phrase, and I called my show for several years after that, Joe Franklin's Memory Lane.
Yes, from that.
From that.
Now, I'm going to give you both some trivia questions. I know you're good at trivia, aren't you? Yeah, you both like trivia. Well, about Fannie Hurst. Right. You know, she wrote Backstreet, you say, and Imitation of Life. Now, Backstreet was made into 3 movie versions. Now, can you tell me who were the leads in each one of them?
1931, of course, was John Bowles, and was it Irene Dunn?
Yes.
Wow. The middle one was Margaret Sullivan.
Yes.
And Charles Boyer, and the last one was Lana Turner.
No,
Lana Turner was more in Imitation of Life. Last one was Susan Hayward.
Yes.
And John Gavin.
Right.
Wow.
Right. Yes.
Does
Hooray.
he know his trivia?
I'll say you do. Yeah. And also about Imitation of Life, who were the 2 actresses?
Claudette Colbert.
Yes.
And Warren William.
Yes, in the first one.
And the second one was Lana Turner.
Yes, Lana Turner.
And Leading Man, tell me.
No, I don't either.
I'll think of it later.
Yeah.
Whatever it was. I love those sad movies that make you cry. You call them tearjerkers, you know?
That's right. That's
love
right.
sad movies. Love to cry.
Yes. Now, we had Backstreet. I was going to ask you, what guest was it that you really, what was your favorite? Who was your really favorite guest that you wanted more than anything?
After Joan Mollison?
Yes.
I would say Bing Crosby.
Yes.
I always thought of Bing as being mechanically reproduced. You know, he was my idol. Eddie Cantor, Bing Crosby. But I thought of Bing always on records, on movies, on radio, on video, on TV. But when he walked toward us, flesh and blood that day, I just melted. I got, you know, the feeling in your stomach when you. So I think that motivated me to do one of my all-time highlight interviews. I think.
Yes, it was a beautiful interview. Now, in the interview with Bing Crosby, you were talking about Russ Columbo. I don't even remember Russ Columbo, and you talked about the Battle of the Baritones, and Rudy Valley was in it.
Right.
My question is, and you said that if Russ Columbo hadn't died so terribly prematurely, he would have been a great star. Would he have overshadowed Bing Crosby?
Would have been neck and neck. You know, Russ Columbo was Bing's only serious rival back in those days. Russ Columbo died in 1934 at the age of only 26.
Oh, my God.
Well, Valentino died when he was 31.
Oh, yeah.
I die on TV every night.
Yeah.
We went to a nursing home the other day, Richie and I, and a lady says, I saw a lady in a wheelchair. I said, lady, I hope you get better soon. She said, Mr. Franklin, I saw your show. I hope you get better soon, too. Remember that?
Yeah, but I've always wondered that about Russ Columbo. In fact, certain people say that if he hadn't died when he did, Bing Crosby might not have become the big star that he is.
There would have been neck and neck. And what was the big song in those days? Crosby, Columbo,
and Valley.
And Valley.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
There was a song about them. That's how popular they
Oh,
were.
yes. Yeah, it was in a picture, Going Hollywood.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, with Bing Crosby.
Great days. Great days,
Yeah,
Joan.
yeah. Now, you have given a career boost to so many wonderful people. When Barbara Streisand was down, Liza Minnelli, Eddie Murphy, Woody Allen,
Who were some of the others that we forget to mention? I mean, nobody discovers anybody, but who we gave the first exposure.
Yeah, the
I'd
first
say
exposure.
Whitney Houston, Bill Cosby,
Bette
Bette Midler.
yes.
And Bette Midler got her first record song sheet. Her song sheet came from Joe, and she borrowed it from Joe. She never gave it back.
That was,
did she?
I'm getting nostalgic for that now. That was a song called The Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy of Company B, which made her a superstar. She got that from my archive. She used to go through my sheet music. She was my receptionist in my office.
For heaven's sakes. And that originally was the Andrews sisters that did
Yeah,
that.
right. But I
That's
spotted Bette Midler. I knew right away she'd be a superstar. She had that magical, electrical something, that charisma.
And all these people rarely come back to thank you. They don't want to come back. Why is
Well,
that
that's
they
a
don't
good
come back?
question, Joan, because I sort of symbolize, I represent to them the time when they were broke.
Oh, yes.
And, right? They don't want to be reminded of when they were poor, I guess, right?
It's true, but a lot of them appreciate it. Bill Cosby came back and he
Well,
thanked Joe.
he was the only one, wasn't
Right, and sometimes
Once
they
in a
come.
while.
Once in a while they come
Yeah.
back.
That's right.
Maybe I'd be the same. It's shallow, but it's human nature, right?
I guess so.
Yeah. So that's why you have to admire Bill Cosby, because he was one of the only ones that came back and thanked you.
You know how I got Bing? I wanted Bing desperately, Bing Crosby. I had his wife on 3 times. I found out she had a syndicated talk show in San Francisco. I had her on 3 times. I got her to like me. I got her to like me. I mean,
Worked?
personally.
Yeah.
So I said, do me one favor. Get your husband on the show. And she brought him in. Because normally Bing Crosby, was always very cold, very aloof, very, unromantic. But on my show that day, he was so warm and just, he was.
He was. So
He could have been
wonderful.
a third-rate, broken-down vaudevillian. He sang all his old songs, got all the words wrong, without music. Just he was not Bing Crosby that day.
Yeah, it was very natural.
He was so happy, so natural, right?
Yes. Well, you've interviewed the cream of the crop, like Cary Grant and Elvis Presley, and the great, great cream of the crop, every great Duke Ellington.
Charlie
all of them.
Chaplin.
Oh, yes. So do you have one regret of one person you couldn't get that you wanted?
Well, what do you think?
Well, Groucho Marx, I think, would have been one that you really would have loved.
Greta Garbo,
Fred Allen.
George S. Kaufman,
Right there.
Burt Lahr, but I had my share.
Oh, Joe made up for it. And he
yes.
had just about everyone that he wanted, But then you find out, like Groucho Marx really was a Joe Franklin fan. One of our good friends, Charlotte Chandler, wrote a book with Groucho Marx, and he used to watch Joe every single night. And Joe would have loved to have him on as a guest.
But I was afraid to ask him because he scared me. He looked so grim and sour and dour. He looked, he scared me.
And you finally found out that he would have wanted to.
He would have loved it.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got nice memories, though, of Bobby Breen, who used to sing on the Eddie Cantor Show. And I want to reunite him now with Deanna Durbin, who lives in Paris.
That's
and
right.
our plan is...
We're going to be going to Paris with Deanna Durbin.
How exciting.
Yes,
to fetch her, to seek her out.
That's right.
Yes, that's really exciting.
Yeah, she was great.
Yes.
Still is, I hear.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
But she hasn't wanted to come back to show business. She has a family now. She's happy over there. She was tired of Hollywood when she left.
That's right.
years
Never.
ago.
She was very untheatrical, unpretentious. Just did her work and went home at night. We'll track her now.
Oh, that would be marvelous.
That'll be
marvelous.
a scoop.
I'd love to see that. And I want to ask you a story. There's a very funny story where Joe Pine and Al Capp were on your show one time, and they were having some kind of an argument, and you said, why don't they both take off their wooden legs and have a duel?
Well, that's one of my little Franklinisms. Joe Pine was very upset. They were both very caustic, acerbic types.
Yeah.
And Joe Pine was upset over some political implication in Little Abner that was drawn by Al Capp.
I loved it.
And they got into a big fight on the air, a screaming match. So I said, listen, boys, they each had a wooden leg. I want to take out your wooden legs and fight a duel. That was one of my...
That's right. And on that subject, Al Capp was a hero of mine. I adored Little Abner. I adored his satire. I thought he was brilliant, just great, and I never got to meet him. So what kind of person was he?
The same as you would expect, quick and snappy and like Oscar Levant.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very dry and, not a little, but a lot facetious, a lot sarcastic, but, very brilliant. Smart man.
Oh, yeah. I wish I had met him sometime. Now, the gist of your show, the really big thing about your show is nostalgia. You're in love with the past, aren't you? You just love the past and nostalgia and all that.
I think the world ended about 1937.
Yes, yes, I almost agree with you. Really agree with you. So let's talk for a minute about nostalgia. I know on the Steve and Edie show a few years ago, they said nostalgia isn't really dead, that even their children like the big bands and all that and old music. So I want to get both of your opinion. What about nostalgia? Is it only for the elderly, or do you have an audience for all kinds of ages?
And how would you account for the rage, for the craze in nostalgia?
Yeah.
Well, first, Joan, I have to thank Joe Franklin for the nostalgia craze.
Yeah.
He actually practically coined the phrase nostalgia, memory lane, memorabilia. Joe Franklin's responsible for all that. That's right. And he made that word a household name. And people, when they turn on television, they see Joe Franklin, and he brings everything back. He takes the past and brings it present.
When I first said the word nostalgia on TV in 1950 or 51, people would send me letters. Scholars would say the word nostalgia, and if you look at the dictionary, it's true, means only a homesick soldier. Nostalgia means a homesick soldier. But I'm the first one to apply that word towards show business, and I sort of paved the way for a new meaning for that term nostalgia, right?
Definitely. And with the word nostalgia and memory lane, the youth, they're picking up on everything that's going on, because those were the good times. It's when show business was everywhere in New York and around the country. Today we have a lot of crime and a lot of problems, so therefore we're not enjoying the present as much as we should. So they want to go back to the olden days. And when you look at the movies like the Ten Commandments, when are you going to see a movie like the Ten Commandments again? When are you going to have Georgie Jessels, Al Jolson, the greatest showman in history, Eddie Cantor? These are people that they're great show people today, and we love them all. And Joe has given breaks to everyone, gave them first opportunities to show themselves on the air, on radio, to speak. And today you're not going to find the same thing. So people want to grab the past. That's why the doo-wop groups, the rock and rollers from the 50s and the 60s are becoming very popular, because people enjoy it. The big bands also.
You can tune in any night on any radio show. You hear people analyzing why this big nostalgia boom. They'll analyze all the reasons why, all the Freudian reasons. They'll tell you how we got through the past. We're worried about the future. That's all baloney. The nostalgia boom is good because those old stars were great.
Right.
Who needs analyzing, right?
That's right.
As you mentioned, the big bands, and Eddie Cantor, Al Jolson, Rudy Valley, Kate Smith, Bob Hope, right? Like when I had Charlie Chaplin on my show. I asked him about people who analyze his movies frame by frame with microscopes. They write big, thick books analyzing Charlie Chaplin movies. Everything that he does supposed to have some political implication. Every time he kicks the fat man in the behind, it's supposed to be knocking the establishment. All these. What he told me when he made those movies, he had nothing in mind except to make people laugh. In other words, you can analyze and overanalyze and over-scrutinize, but the answer is it was great entertainment.
Yes, he was. You might say he had the path. He led the path for movies. He was Mr. Movies himself. You would say Chaplin was the greatest.
So true. In the old days, people didn't say, let's go to the movies. They would say, let's go see Charlie Chaplin.
That's right.
Because he was the movies.
Yes, the movies. And I want to mention a few other people that you mentioned on Hollywood Memories of Hollywood. Let's talk about it. Eddie Cantor.
He was my first friend. I wrote his radio show when I was 15 years old.
My goodness.
And, he was a good-looking man. You always talk about it. He was pint-sized and pop-eyed. And he was about 5'9.5", and he wasn't pint-sized, and he was very virile and handsome, and there's happily a little renaissance now of Eddie Cantor happening on the American movie classics kind of channels.
Oh, yeah, I have all his movies that I got from the American movie
classics. In the 1930s, he was number one on radio, movies, records, TV. He was, when TV came in, he was the only one who got the same rating as Ed Sullivan. He was on opposite Ed Sullivan. So he was the only one who would equal or beat Ed Sullivan. So he was a superstar.
Yeah, I've seen most of his movies. Now, let's talk about your friend Milton Berle.
Well, I call him the thief of bad gags.
Yeah.
He's a very funny man, and we meet all. He's about 86 years old now. Just got married again.
Oh, yeah.
And I told him, he married a girl about 22. I said, that could be fatal. He said, well, if she dies, she dies. He's a funny man. He sold a lot of TV sets, right?
Oh, yeah.
I sold mine. My uncle sold his.
But he was, like Chaplin was Mr. Movies, he was Mr. Television, wasn't he?
He was Mr. Tuesday night. He was that day between Monday and Wednesday was called Burl's Day. That's how popular he was, right?
Yeah. An interesting story how he got to become Uncle Milty. Remember, he was...
he had about 8 or 9 minutes to pad one night. They gave him the wrong signals, and he just ad-libbed. It was your Uncle Milty, and the next day he was in a parade, and everybody in the whole world yelled, Uncle Milty. That's how he took off. And This was before ratings. There were no ratings those days. The only way you could know how popular they were was by the recognition from the public. And he was overnight Uncle Milty.
Yeah, terrific. Also, I want to talk about Joey Brown. You mentioned Joey Brown in your memories of Hollywood.
I loved him. He was the man with the big mouth. And he was the leading movie star of 1931. He was, you know, the A picture would be Joey Brown. The B picture would be James Cagney. That's how later on it flip-flopped.
Yeah, you said it was at Warner Brothers that his pictures got more public appeal than Betty Davis even.
Tremendous. Bigger than Betty Davis, right?
That is something.
But fame is fleeting.
Oh, yes.
What is it? They say Broadway is the longest street with the shortest memory.
That's right.
There's a broken heart for every light on Broadway.
Yeah. And not far behind Chaplin was Harold Lloyd.
Great man with the spectacles, and his leading lady was B.B. Daniels, who later on married Ben Lyon.
Oh, yeah, she was in 42nd Street.
Wow, you know your stuff.
Oh, I have a collection of 500 movies. You have 10,000.
With Ruby Keeler.
Oh, yes.
She was married to Al Jolson.
Yeah.
When Ruby was on my show, they warned me. They said, Joe, don't mention Jolson.
No.
They had a very unhappy divorce. Don't mention Jolson. They said, if you mention Jolson, she's going to get up and walk away. You know what I did? I did a whole hour talking about Jolson, right?
Oh, my God.
And she loved it.
She did.
I love when they warn you what you must not talk about, right?
Oh, yeah, we had Eric Douglas, Kirk Douglas' son.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, we don't talk about this, we don't talk about my family, it's about me, I'm a stand-up comic. And Joe started off with him, and that's why Joe, see, Joan, he is a special type of person, Joe Franklin. He knows how to handle his guests. He makes the guest look like the star. No matter who the guest is. I had a fella came on from Nashville. He said, I practically had to grab the microphone away from the host. Says, I went to Joe Franklin's show. They thought it was Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash wrapped in one. But they sometimes have a warning. Don't do this, don't do that. And Joe defies it. And the entire show, Eric Douglas spoke about his father
and his brother Michael
and his brother and how he got his name, Eric, from the movie The Vikings.
And he warned us, don't mention my father, don't mention my brother. That was the whole show.
That's exactly it, right.
Oh, that is funny.
You know, there's a cult out there who will write Joe Franklin is mild, he's neutral, he's bland, but there's even a bigger cult who can read between the lines and they know that I'm not. I can make a strong, investigative, probing, penetrative kind of a point, hard-hitting, but I do it in a lovable, baby-faced,
you
adorable,
never offend anybody.
kissable, huggable way, right?
That's exactly correct.
I try not to, but
you never do.
But if I do it in a way where they're not really offended. I can sort of do it through a devious route.
That's very
clever. You agree with?
Absolutely. He knows how to do it. And Jody also interviewed 7 presidents of the United States.
Oh, my goodness.
You know, which is incredible.
Ronald Reagan 5 times. But with him never as president. 3 times he was hosting a program called Death Valley Days, sponsored by 20 Mule Team Borax. Twice he was hosting the GE Theater. And the last time he gave me a book called Where's the Rest of Me? His famous line from King's Row. Remember that?
Yes, when they cut off his legs.
Right. And I didn't even get the book didn't get the book autographed. I figured another actor. What does it mean, another actor? Ronald Reagan.
Who would ever know he's going to be president?
1 year later he runs for governor in California, then, you know, what happened?
Yeah, nobody would have guessed at that time. No.
But he was charming. Even then he was very charming.
He was. Very charming.
I knew he'd make big someday, right?
Yeah, well, he said he sent a letter to Joe for the last show, and he thanked Joe for having
yes.
him on as a guest. And he says, well, you're partially responsible for me becoming president. You pumped me in when I was in show business, and people got to know me. So he thanked Joe. And
you know, when I retired from TV about a week ago, I got a personal letter from the president of the United Cigar Company. No, we got letters from Clinton, right?
Oh yeah, Bill Clinton sent him his license plate, his inaugural license plate from the rear limousine plate, which is it's priceless, and it has the president logo on it and the number 1. And he wanted to thank Joe for everything he's given to the country over the years, and he wants to be on Joe's show, and Joe comes back. Sure.
If I come back, if I come back.
If and when.
Oh yeah.
I deserve. I think after 43 years.
Oh yeah.
I deserve a little
break.
Actually, I'm calling it a station break. I'm going from the control room to the boardroom. I've got a company now, a public company called Joe Franklin Productions, and we're going to corner the whole nostalgia world and produce and make new Joe Franklins, new Richie Ornsteins, new Joan Mollinson.
That's it.
Restaurants and mail order, and we're going to have an old nostalgia radio station, old nostalgia TV station. I've always been very envious of Merv Griffin Productions, Johnny Carson Productions, Chuck Barris Productions, Dick Clark Productions. Now I got my own Joe Franklin Productions.
You really should.
And it's fun. But I'll since I invented the talk show, maybe I'll overhaul it, I'll rejuvenate it, and I'll come back maybe next year with the whole new outrageous kind of a talk show. Something untested, something untried. Maybe, I'll see.
And now to go on a little further about these wonderful old people, what about Ed Wynn?
He was called the fire chief, the Texaco fire chief. He was funny. He was one of the first to use a studio audience. You know, in those days in radio you had to be so solemn and quiet and ministerial. But he says, I want to have an audience to laugh at my jokes. So he broke the ice on that. Great man. His son was Keenan Wynn.
Yeah, that's right. And then he did some dramatic things.
Later on, when he started to get sick and he started to get Parkinson's, he
did he?
Yeah. But he turned into a good dramatic actor.
Yeah, on Requiem for a Heavyweight. He did that with...
Marjorie Morningstar, several.
Oh, yes. Yeah, he became a dramatic actor.
Ed Wynn was great.
Yes. Oh, let's talk about Laurel and Hardy.
Oh, they were my favorites, Fat and Skinny.
Oh, yeah, they were so brilliant.
And, you know, they were, in those days, not taken seriously. They were sort of shunned as second-class citizens.
Oh, really?
And later on, God bless them, after they were not around to appreciate it, they become...
oh, yes, because I thought they were the greatest, greater than Abbott and Costello, any of them. They were the greatest.
They were so funny, so original. I knew Stan Laurel.
Oh, yeah.
I met him once. I got a handwritten letter from Stan Laurel. If I can ever find it. So tell Joan about... Oh, where's the picture of my archive?
Oh, sure,
Got to show a little bit of what my office looks like. I am the #1 slob. Did I bring the picture?
No, we have it. We have it here. Oh, it's in color.
There's a picture of my office.
Yeah, that is some office.
But I sometimes I know the order of my disorder. You know, sometimes, but I can have the thrill that a neat man can never have. You know what that thrill is? I can sometimes find something that I thought was irretrievably lost. But I am what you would call a real slob. That's my office on a neat day.
Right.
That's right, on a neat day.
It's computerized.
right.
Yeah.
Bless this mess, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And we'll never
Marvelous.
change.
Marvelous. Oh, what about Bert Lahr?
Bert Lahr was the cowardly lion.
Yes.
And he once told me that he never had the fame that he had from that potato chip commercial.
That's right.
Yeah, that's
75 years in movies, or television, radio, but he didn't get real famous till the potato chip commercial.
That's right. I remember he was shooting the night they raided Minsky's one time, and it was outside of the theater, and everybody was watching the shoot, and some little boy said, oh, look, there's the Lay's potato chips man.
Isn't that funny?
And it is amazing. After all he's done, he was remembered as the Lay's potato chip man.
This big movie part was as the cowardly lion in The Wizard of Oz, but he said to me once, how many parts are there for a cowardly lion?
Yeah. Oh, and Jack Benny. What do you think about Jack Benny?
The greatest, the master of timing, the master, I mean... he was just a fill-in on a program with George Olson's music, but he became so popular within 4 weeks. George Olson got into the background and became the Jack Benny radio show, sponsored by Canada Dry. And he made his reputation as being stingy from that because the gimmick was a nickel back on every bottle, you know, for the deposit. And the whole format of the radio show was that he would go around collecting bottles from his cast to get all those nickels back.
That's where I got the reputation of being stingy.
Right, which he really wasn't. He was a nice man.
Yeah.
Master.
And what about that great comedian Fanny Bryce? Did you know Fanny Bryce?
Oh, very well. Baby Snooks.
Yes.
Funny lady. Why, Daddy? Remember Why, Daddy?
Sure.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Oh, yeah. She was just about the greatest comedian way back.
It's funny I would mention Parkinson's, but a friend of mine, Jesse Block, was a stockbroker. There was a team once called Block and Sully, and then the team broke up. Jesse Block was one day at the Hillcrest Country Club with some of the people he was selling his stocks to. It was Fanny Bryce, Eddie Cantor, Al Jolson, Jack Benny, and he says to Fanny Bryce, who at that time was very sick, he said, you know, I had a great thrill when I was a young man. I was on the bill with you in Chicago at the Oriental Theater, and I was making only $50 a week, and she was all blurred out. He says, and I was so thrilled because I was making $50, and there I was on the bill with a lady making $7,500 a week. She says, no, $10,000. in the middle of a blur, she wouldn't accept the fact that she was only making $7,500.
Oh boy!
She came to life long enough to remind him she was making $10,000.
Yeah.
That's great.
You've written quite a few books on trivia and memorabilia. Tell us about some of your books. What are some of your books?
Richie.
Well, here's one of them. This is the latest and the greatest. Our movie trivia book. And you know, it's 43 years of trivia that Joe has used over the years on the show. And it's great because people, you know, we were talking before about nostalgia, memory lane, memorabilia, and this is what it's all about. People are enjoying it. It starts in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, goes up to the 90s, and everyone wants it. It's by Hastings House, and it's in all the bookstores, and it's a lot of fun.
Big seller.
And this is your copy.
Oh, my goodness.
That's your
Well,
copy.
I am really thrilled.
Now in its fourth printing.
Oh.
That's right.
The first 3 printings were blurred.
Oh, boy.
I've written about 26 books.
I'm
I did a
absolutely
big
thrilled.
one called Classics of the Silent Screen. I'm doing a new one from Macmillan, going to be a #1 blockbuster. They're hoping it'll be a major book, be a big one.
Yes. And you relax by watching old movies, old classic movies. You have about a collection of
I
10,000.
would say I'm lucky enough that my work is my hobby, right?
That's right.
At night, other people go around to clubs. I go home. I watch my old movies on 16 millimeter. I never watch anything on videotape. I watch it on 16 millimeter. I'm a purist, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And the records I play on the old wind-up phonograph. You remember the old crank with the controller?
Yes.
No CDs, no LPs, only 78s.
That's something. Who are some of your favorites when you watch these old movies?
I would say Merle Oberon.
Oh, yes, I love it.
Ben Burney. Laurence Olivier. Kate Smith. And Mickey Rooney.
Oh, yeah.
And the aforementioned Laurel and Hardy. Who else when I'm watching with you at night? Who else?
Judy Garland. We love Judy. She was fantastic. And Buster Keaton was great. And and then once in a while we'll throw in some Jackie Gleason, and we'll bring it a little bit up to date. But you see, when you were asking about Laurel and Hardy, the Gleason and Carney, Art Carney and Jackie Gleason, were inspired by them.
I never thought of that.
Sure.
For heaven's sake.
Right? Because they were the greatest. They certainly were.
Yes. And what about, actually, I think he's the greatest actor in the world, Charles Lawton.
Ah,
You like
great
Charles
man.
Lawton? I call him the greatest actor in the world.
I met him once. Douglas Fairbanks.
Oh, yes.
Mary Pickford. Those are my people, right?
That's
yes.
right.
Yes. Well, talking about trivia, since you're both experts, a couple of trivia questions.
Sure.
What was Paul Newman's screen debut?
You know, I forget. Was it the Silver Chalice?
Yes.
No.
Yes, Silver
Really?
Chalice is
Right,
correct.
right,
Right.
And what was Paul Muni's real name?
Muni Weisenfrund.
Oh, yes.
Muni Weisenfrund.
And what was Edward G. Robinson's real name?
Goldenberger.
Emmanuel Goldberger,
yes.
right.
And when did Sinatra get his first screen kiss?
In a movie with Gloria DeHaven. I forget. Was it Higher and Higher?
Oh, yeah, it was the movie
Or
version.
Step Lively? I forget.
Step Lively. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
That's right. It was a movie version of a play, Room Service.
Right.
Yeah, oh, yeah, it was a movie version of Room
And
Service.
Deanna Durbin's first kiss came from Robert Stack
Oh, yes.
in First Love.
Yes.
And Shirley Temple's first kiss from Dickie Moore.
For heaven's sake.
That made front pages. That blocked out World War II for about a whole week. That's how popular Shirley Temple was.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she was. That's right. You had her when she's Mrs. Black, Shirley Temple Black.
And the first time she was on, they warned me. They said, Joe, don't talk about her old, right?
Right,
Don't
sure.
talk about her old movies. She's here to talk about the United Nations and penal reform and Biafra and air pollution and women's rights. They said, you say one word about her old movies, she's going to get up and walk away. You know what I did? I did 1 hour talking about her old movies. Nothing but, and she loved it so much that when she went back to California, she mailed me one of her old original scrapbooks, which is, priceless.
Oh, yes.
I love when they warn you what you must not talk about.
Jane
right?
Wyman, don't talk about Ronald Reagan.
That's right.
Oh, yes.
And I did a whole hour talking about it. How could I not talk about the president? He was president then,
Yes.
I did it, and she didn't mind. She loved it, right?
Sure, they all love
Yeah, you're associated with so many famous people. Let's look at some of the pictures.
it. Sure.
Down memory lane.
With Joe Franklin.
300,000 guests through the years.
That's right.
300,000.
Goodness.
Yeah, and I'm not going to quit till I get it right. No, I got it right.
Oh, you got it right.
Okay,
Yeah, you got it right.
And this one is...
This one is... That's when I was in radio with a lady named Belle Baker. I was about 18 and a half years old, and Belle Baker was in the tradition of Sophie Tucker, a big vaudeville star. Belle Baker. Oh, you grabbed some handful, right?
Sure.
Tony Curtis on the at the premiere of a movie called The Great Race with Jack Lemmon and Natalie Wood.
And boyhood friend, Bernie Schwartz.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, nice.
Yeah.
That's a telethon with Bob Hope.
Oh, yes.
Richie and yours truly taking Tony Bennett into my TV studio about a year ago, I guess.
That's right. Yeah, nice
Good old-
man.
Oh, Tony Bennett. Very sick, left his heart in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
Bill Cosby, just,
Oh, yeah.
you know, saying, Joe, you're telling a terrible joke. Stop it.
He was great. What
In
a great
disbelief.
show.
Well, that's the time when Rudy Valley, you know, my singer was Barbara Streisand, and that's your old partner, Jack LaLanne,
That's right, Jack LaLanne.
And Rudy Valley told her that day, you know, Rudy Valley told her she'll never make it in show business. He says, you haven't got the face or the voice or the nose.
My God.
I think he was wrong.
I believe so. I believe so.
She was the regular singer. There we are.
Sammy Davis, the king.
What a nice man. He
Gone,
loved you.
Gone, but
A national treasure. That's what he called you, a national treasure.
He is.
And
Danny Thomas on a recent telethon, the late and beloved Danny Thomas.
Right, he was
And
great.
he was a young man. We had to give him the car fare to come to our studio, named Garth Brooks.
That's right, became a superstar right after that.
Now makes $1 million a night. I got to work 2 nights for that kind of money, right, Richard?
That's it.
That's Bill.
That's
Baker.
it.
That's only a
Great.
sample. Next time we'll bring more.
Yeah, and at your 40th, I was watching your 40th anniversary. Right, you had beautiful tributes from Phyllis Diller and who else? The man who does the make-believe ballroom, and Bob Hope.
Everybody,
and
everybody.
Oh, yes. And Billy Crystal. He's a great admirer of yours. Billy Crystal simply adores you.
Well, what was his first acting lesson?
His first acting lesson, Joan, was acting sick in the afternoon when Joe used to be on, early afternoon, and he didn't want to go to school, so he told his parents he wasn't feeling well. He said, that was my first acting lesson, acting sick to my parents, so I could watch Joe Franklin. And he loved Joe Franklin show because Joe had on the little comedy shorts. He would Abbott and Costello, he would have on Buster Keaton, and all the old-time comics.
Slapstick,
And
pie in the face.
Exactly.
Which motivated him to want to be a comedian.
Yeah.
That's quite a tribute.
And what do you think of his imitating you on the
Well,
Saturday Night Live
he did
show?
me for 4 years, you know.
Yeah.
And the first time I saw it, I said to myself, one of us is lousy. And now I'm starting a crusade to get him his old job back on Saturday Night Live because I missed that weekly exposure. I'm appealing to all your listeners out there to send in postcards and get Billy Crystal his old job back. I'm only kidding because he used to make about $500 a week, then I probably makes about $500 a second.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I missed that exposure.
Yeah.
But you know, somebody told me recently that subliminally, Joan and Richie, that he is me, Billy Crystal. Now, without knowing it, subconsciously, he's doing all my shtick, all my mannerisms. When he's as himself, he is subconsciously now Joe Franklin.
Oh, yes.
Because he did me so many years.
That's right.
I became part of his
Oh, yes, proud of
psyche.
him. Really proud of him.
And he dedicated his book, Absolutely Marvelous, to Joe Franklin,
Yeah.
thanking Joe for giving him his break in show business before he even met him.
That is really something.
Right?
Yes.
He loved him. He
I
still
can
does.
see that. Yes. You know, I enjoyed your that scene in the restaurant with the Cesar Romero and those people and Cornel Wilde and the French actress. Cesar Romero's a wonderful person. I like him.
And Corinne Calvé.
Oh, yeah, Corinne Calvé.
And Henry Brandon, who played in all those Laurel and Hardy pictures, you know, and so sad that Cornel Wilde is gone since then, and Henry Brandon is gone.
Oh, yes.
But we've got great memories, and
Yes.
I went to Milton Berle's house that time. You were with me, right?
Right.
Oh, it was great, fantastic.
And also, you're a great friend of Rudy Valley's. You used to go to his house with...
I lived in his house when I went to
Oh,
California 4
yeah.
times. He lived in the very top house, alongside Jack LaLanne.
Yeah, he was between Jack LaLanne and Penny Marshall.
Top of the Hollywood Hills and
That's right.
Mulholland Drive. And then I think Arsenio Hall bought that house.
Oh,
That's right.
Now when Rudy
yeah.
passed on.
Yeah. And, also, there's a very funny story you told about Michael, Elizabeth Taylor's husband.
Which one? She had about 9 or 11.
Yeah, not
Michael
Wells.
Todd?
Yeah, Mike Todd. When Mike Todd came on your show, you told a very funny story about Elizabeth Taylor that
Well,
time.
they came together and she was getting her chin, massaged by her. She's a gorgeous lady.
Oh, I
Her
know.
eyes are deep
know.
purple. I met her in Hollywood a couple
yeah.
times. I met her one night. One time I went out to one of my 26 books. They sent the book to Johnny Carson to see if Johnny wanted me on his show. They got the word that Johnny passed. You know what that means, passed.
Sure.
Didn't want me on the show.
Right.
So they sent the book to Tom Snyder, who was doing a program then called The Tomorrow Show. Snyder got all excited, you know. They sent me an airline ticket, hotel suite, and everything. I did the show in California. I walked into the studio in Berkeley. Is that Berkeley?
Burbank.
Burbank. And who do I meet in the hallway? Johnny Carson, who broadcasts in the same room, the same studio, the same building where Tom Snyder. He said, Joe, what are you doing here? I said, I'm here to plug my book on the Tom Snyder show. He says, why not my show? I said, Johnny, they sent you the book. We got the word that you passed. You know what he said? He said, I never saw the book. He started to scream. The veins started to bulge out of his heart. I ran away. I got scared. It shows you why these talent coordinators can be so cruel sometimes, right?
Yeah, and that brings me to the subject. You're the only one that doesn't go through talent or coordinators. You do your own. You get your own guests, and you have your own. You don't like talent coordinators or agents or managers.
I tried it, but
That's
by
right.
being the only approachable or the only accessible talk show host, I can feel in my mind who goes well together, right? I become what? The master chemist.
That's
chemist.
right.
He knows exactly what works, Joan, because if a person calls up, and Joe could tell by their voice whether he likes them, whether they're going to work on the show, and 99% of the time, Joe has it right on the nose. He discovered so many people, Madonna.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Madonna was a backup singer.
My
on the
backup
show.
singer. I knew she'd make good because she said to the other singers all the time, back up, back up, back up, back up. I knew she'd make good.
Roseanne Barr. I mean, the list is endless.
Roseanne Barr.
Joan Rivers.
And the other one, Jay Leno. He was my anchorman maybe 30, 40 times.
My goodness.
I got him his first agent.
That's right. So you're the most accessible, the most non-theatrical person in show
I've never
business.
had an agent.
That's right.
The show business is called business. That's why.
That's
but
right.
I never had a manager. I'm
amazing.
like a mom and pop candy store.
That's right. When somebody wants to get you, no secretary or anything, they can get you immediately.
I've enjoyed being my own person.
Yeah. Now, there's one ingredient. What do you attribute the longevity? Shows come and go. I mean, they come and go, but you've lasted all these years. What is your real sort of magic formula?
Well, you're right about that. The mortality rate in the talk show field, the 400 talk show hosts came and went since I began. 400 fell by the wayside. I think the main ingredient, Joan, is, as I've said before, sincerity.
That's it.
And once you've learned to fake that, then you got it made.
That's right.
No, I think the main thing is to be real.
Real.
I'm spontaneous. I'm unrehearsed. I don't, on any other talk show where somebody will say, "How do you feel?" They'll say on a card, "Fine." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But mine is totally ad lib. I figure if you're going to have dinner in a restaurant, you don't rehearse the dialogue before dinner, right? It's just
That's right.
let it flow.
That's right. You don't have to talk to them before the first time you see the guest is the first time the audience sees them.
I
when
don't
they come
say
on.
that's the only way. Maybe I would have done better the other way, but I have no complaints. I'm not wasting away, right? No complaints.
It works.
Now, in August 6th, you did your last show for the time being, and it was very great. You had, as you said, letters from Governor Como, and you interviewed Governor Florio.
We got letters from maybe 25 superstar politicians and entertainers, unsolicited letters, great letters. But I would say, in teaching, Joan, I think they call it a little bit of burnout. I just decided to rest well. I think I deserve after.
Oh, you do.
Counting radio about 47 years of 7 days a week.
Oh, yeah, and you're still doing your Saturday night. It starts at midnight to 5 in the morning.
I do the radio on WOR because what would I be doing on a Saturday night? I'd be home playing my old records for a select circle of friends. Anyhow, so if I play them on the radio, I'm doing it for a few million people. The same effort, the same energy, the same, so
that's right.
It serves a big.
And talk shows today. What is your opinion of the other talk shows today?
I think they're good. They're good, but they're trying to. There's a lot of schlock. I call it schlock. Because they're trying to get the people's attention, and they try so hard that sometimes they'll do crazy things that aren't necessary, because I think there are a lot of great talk show hosts. I like Arsenio Hall. He's fantastic. Jay Leno is great. But in my opinion, it was Joe Franklin and Johnny Carson, and that was it.
Well, they've gotten very kinky. They've gotten very, what you would call, perverted.
Oh, yes, the things that they do for high ratings.
Right, and it's not necessary, because you don't have to see transsexuals and transvestites and all different crazy things and everything pertaining to sex. They want to see entertainment. They want to see people that could sing and act and find out what's going on. I think that's more important than just tuning in on freaks and things like that. I mean, there are people that like it, obviously, and that's why they do it. But it's the old traditional talk show hosts like Joe Franklin and Johnny Carson that really brought television where it is right now. The Steve Allens, the Ernie Kovacs, these were entertainers. These were people that knew how to bring talent out from their guest, and they would make that guest shine no matter who that guest was. It didn't make a difference if it was a lady 95 years old in Iowa or if it was the greatest superstar of the world. They made everyone feel comfortable, and that's why those shows were everlasting, and they'll always be remembered, because the person is not born now in 1993 that could equal Joe Franklin's record, because Arsenio Hall has to go about another 41 years. Jay Leno has 41 years. Everyone has at least 40 years to go, and it's not likely. I wish him all the best of luck, but it's not like it's going to happen.
In today's fickle marketplace, I don't think anybody's going to be on the air still in the year 2037, right?
Not likely.
And Jay Leno, I think, has more than a long way to go. He doesn't come up to Johnny Carson, does he? I mean,
but he's good. He's good in what he does. He's an entertainer. He has a lot of personality.
Got a big chin.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because to tell the truth, you know, you're the only talk show I'm interested in watching. I never watch the others. I don't
always
know.
had good taste. I appreciate it.
Even Joan Rivers. You like Joan Rivers?
Oh, she's good.
Well,
she's good.
She's an acquired taste.
Yeah.
She's abrasive, but she's quieting down now, I think. You know, just a question that I get all these people who want to be on my show. I was listening last night on the radio. Somebody said, yeah, when Joe Franklin was booking a show, he put anybody on. They don't know. I used to turn down 1,000 an hour. You know, you've been in the office. You heard the phone ringing. Most of them have a need to be turned down. Most of them, if I put them on my show, they won't respect me. Somebody will call up, they'll say, Joe, I want to be on your show. I'll say, what's your specialty? They'll say, I'll say, not that you need qualifications, but what have you done? They say, well, my specialty is nutrition or finance or romance or money, but I said, well, have you written a book? They say no. And what I'm saying is, if I put them on my show, they'll have no respect for me. I've had people on my show later on, I heard them say to their friends, Joe Franklin put me on his show. He's hit the pits. He's hit the rock bottom because he put me on his show. So you gotta, they have a need to be rejected. They have a need to be turned down.
Yes, you can tell that.
That's right. So it's a question that in the last few months we had Walter Matthau, Patricia Neal, Raquel Welch, Billy Crystal again. We had them all.
Oh, everyone has been on. Madonna wanted to come back. I mean, they all want to be on Joe.
You know, Billy Crystal does the routine that I have on a dancing dentist or a singing bus driver or a Polish dentist doing 5,000 cavities, and the man who whistles through his nose. Out of 300,000 guests I've had, maybe 9 eccentric ones like that. But I've encouraged that image because it's give them something to talk about. To do they're doing a satire on a satire in a sense. My whole life is a spoof. My whole life on TV has been tongue-in-cheek. It's been make-believe. So they're doing a spoof on a spoof. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, a spoof on a spoof.
You know, I'm having fun. They, you know, I love what they do.
You don't take yourself real seriously at all.
Never did. My whole life has been unserious. And now there are Joe Franklin sound-alike contests all over the country. People imitating me, right? There's the late, great Al Jolson. You know, I went into a Joe Franklin sound-alike contest myself the other day. About a month ago, you know what happened? I came in third. Really.
Yeah. Well, you know, a lot of people don't realize you actually have a private life, too. You've been married for...
one wife.
Yeah, one wife.
Lives in Florida. That's the secret of our togetherness, you know. She likes the warm weather. I got one son who's in the mail order business and very successful. He had his own TV show for 2 weeks when he was 17, walked away fast. Thank God.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's good that if he didn't want to go to shows.
Murderous game, Joan. Murderous. If I had my life to live over again, I'd live over a grocery store. I mean, no.
Yeah, but what would you like to be remembered, this show, until you come back again, really have your show remembered for?
If I come back, I would say that I was honest. I looked in people's eyes and I asked the kind of questions that, you know, it's like when we used to watch Bing Crosby with the Hawaiian shirt and with the pipe looking so nonchalant. He was sweating. He was perspiring to look nonchalant. It wasn't easy. And I tried to make my profession look easy. It's the world's roughest game. You live or die by the rating machine.
I know.
You're not held on by people. Not held on by you. You're held on by a machine. If that machine dips on any Friday, you're tossed out. Like in the A&P, they toss the detergent into the river if it doesn't sell. Same thing with human beings on TV. You're flesh. If you don't get the ratings, so I kept the ratings. I guess
you sure did.
I was organic. I was from the bones. I was pure. I was honest. I was me.
Yes. And no other regrets. Oh, there's one thing I read. You didn't save certain ones of your real classic shows like Elvis Presley or James Cagney. Yes, there are some that you lost.
Tell Joan what a slob I've been about saving things, right?
Well, Joe has so many things in his office, you know, and he has a filing system like no one else has. 43 years of memorabilia. So he couldn't possibly keep all these. If he kept every tape, Joan, from all the shows, he would have over 25,000 tapes.
Oh, my God. So
which is an awful lot. So
I lost the tapes with John Lennon, John Wayne,
Oh, my gosh.
James Cagney.
Sure.
At least 25 great ones like that, gone forever.
Oh, that's really sad.
It is, that's the word, sad.
Oh, yes, when people are gone, they're gone.
Sad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll make up for it someday, right?
Yes.
Definitely, we'll get them all back.
Oh, yes. So they say you were the one that invented the television show and the talk show, and it's going to be a big void, terrible void
Well,
when you're gone.
I feel
But
sorry.
you're, like you said, you're not quitting altogether. You'll be back even bigger.
I'll, as of now, as of this moment, Joan, I promised 5 syndication houses and or stations or packagers that I'd be on the air starting yesterday, 5 days a week
Yes.
with an audience, with an orchestra, with the Joe Franklin show, but I just feel I need that little time out.
Oh, yes, of course.
Little
you do.
station break, little sabbatical, a hiatus.
yes.
In other words,
Yes.
change of pace, a rest. Because, you got to think of, doing the show I loved, but getting the body
Oh, yes.
into Secaucus and through the traffic and
Oh,
through the
yes.
tunnel, and we got to go around, got to make a U-turn in the tunnel.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
They say you're a workaholic that way. You are somewhat of a workaholic, that you work 7 days a week.
You only live once or twice,
That's right.
and there are no pockets in shrouds. You cannot take it with you.
That's the truth.
Yeah, that's my belief, too. You can't take it with you. That's what I
I've
go by
always
all the
said
time.
that money isn't everything, Joan. Health and happiness are 1%. I'm only kidding. but
Yes.
but I've been pushing hard, and I had a couple of warnings to take it easy. Nobody believed it. The station out there doesn't. Channel 9 didn't believe it, and there were headlines all over the world. I'm on the cover of this week's Village Voice with my picture. Say it ain't so, Joe. You see it?
Yes, that's great.
So it's, I mean, the media blitz I've gotten upon my retirement, I should retire every week if I can get that
Oh,
kind of...
yes. Yes, you're really hot right
I
now.
was on day one
Yes.
with Jeff Greenfield and Forrest Sawyer, and they want me now on 60 Minutes. I was on the front page of every newspaper with the wire service story, say it ain't so, Joe. Please don't quit. But I wanted to quit the exact same day when Johnny Carson quit. I wanted to go down the same day. I figured that would be the real media blitz, but I couldn't get out of my commitments. I had certain contractual obligations, but I finally did it about a year and a half later. I did
Yes, because you've done, I think the statistic is over 21,000 shows.
That's right.
21,000.
I think 22,416 shows. All good. I was once on 3 times a day.
My
In New
goodness.
York alone, 3 times a day. California, even to the very end, prime time, 10:30 at night out there.
Yes.
We were in California. We got standing ovations at all the restaurants.
Oh, yeah, we walked into a restaurant in Hollywood, and Ronald Reagan was there with his wife, and Frank Sinatra
Came
was
over to our
there.
table, Ronald Reagan, right?
Right.
And the security men took him away.
That's right, he couldn't come over to Joe. Wouldn't allow him.
Bodyguards.
Do you like the West Coast better, or do you like it here better?
I get better here. A little bit too spread out there. A little.
Oh,
I call it Holly weird. Little,
Yeah, it is awfully weird.
Yeah, I like
yeah.
I like the Big Apple. I like the tempo, the rhythm, the excitement. What do you think? The flavor.
Yes, New York is the place.
I agree.
And if you can't make it in New York, it's tough to make it anywhere
That's
else.
right.
And Joe is New York. He stands for New York and what everybody loves. That's
Yes.
why you walk down the street with Joe Franklin, everyone knows him. Today, Joan, you have all types of superstars, but they can walk down Broadway, no one will know who they are. I don't care how big their name is.
True.
Male or female. Joe Franklin goes someplace, it's just like the old days where Eddie Cantor would be recognizable, Al Jolson, Judy Garland, and Joe Franklin is stopped by everyone, regardless if it's a homeless person, they all know Joe Franklin. To the mayor, the governor, it doesn't make a
Oh,
difference.
yeah. Well, he deserves it. He's given
certainly does.
so much pleasure, so much happiness, helped so many people get to the top. He's absolutely going to be missed terribly, and thank you so much.
Joan, you've given us the pleasure, and it's a pleasure to know you, and let's always be together, okay?
Absolutely, always. And thanks again, and come back. Please come back. We're going to miss you.
Guaranteed.
And all the luck in the world on your future endeavors.
We love you.
Right.